A cheetah was locked into a puppy's enclosure, and this is what happened next. Hi everyone, today I'm incredibly excited to share a story that warmed my heart from the moment I heard it, and I have a feeling it might do the same for you. It's a tale that transcends species, instinct, and even survival. What would you think if a cheetah was placed in a puppy's enclosure? What could happen between them? Could they actually get along, or might instinct take over? Join us on Animals Need Love to see what happens next in this incredible story. Recently, a zoo in the United States became the center of a heartwarming story involving a cheetah and a puppy, a story that's taken social media by storm. At first, people were shocked to see photographs and videos of a cheetah cub happily playing with a small scrappy puppy, but as they learned the details, their shock turned to fascination. Imagine this: cheetahs, often viewed as untouchable and fierce, are known to be solitary, highly focused hunters, the fastest land animals on Earth, reaching speeds over 60 miles per hour in seconds. They're symbols of power, speed, and grace, their lives driven by instinct and independence. You'd think that these cats, born and bred for the wild, would be unlikely candidates for friendship with another species, let alone a domestic puppy. And yet, sometimes life has a way of surprising us all. Kumbali, the cheetah at the heart of our story, was born on May 12th, 2015 at the Metro Richmond Zoo. From day one, he faced challenges most cubs don't survive. He was born frail and weak, struggling even to nurse properly. As the runt of his litter, he was pushed aside by his healthier siblings, and this lack of access to food quickly began to weaken him further. As he grew weaker, the zookeepers knew they had to intervene, or they would lose him. Seeing the urgency, the zookeepers made a tough decision. They separated Kumbali from his family and began to bottle feed him around the clock, giving him the care he needed to grow strong. But as Kumbali grew, the caretakers noticed another problem emerging. While he was healthy on the outside, he was lonely, and it showed. He had been separated from his family for so long that when they tried to reintroduce him, he wasn't accepted back. His family rejected him completely. Imagine that. Having already struggled to survive, Kumbali was now faced with rejection from the very family he longed to be with. And as much as the zookeepers tried to comfort him, he grew withdrawn, a hint of sadness in his eyes. At this point, the zoo staff began wondering, is there anything we can do to lift Kumbali's spirits? In a remarkable decision, they set out to find a friend for him. But they knew that not just any animal would do. Kumbali needed someone who could match his energy, but wouldn't be intimidated by his size or strength. After searching high and low, the team found Kago, a shelter puppy with a past that could have ended tragically. Kago had been rescued from a crowded animal shelter, saved from a sad fate. He was just a pup, but he had already endured the loneliness and uncertainty of shelter life. Thanks to the work of animal rights activists, Kago and other animals were moved to safer shelters, each in search of a new loving home. When the zoo employees heard his story, they felt that Kago might just be the friend Kumbali needed. Still, nobody knew for sure if the two would get along. After all, cheetahs and dogs are very different animals, but zookeepers hoped that Kumbali, young and vulnerable, would see Kago as a friend rather than a threat. The moment they met was filled with anticipation. Everyone waited to see what would happen when they introduced Kumbali, the lonely cheetah, to Kago, the playful puppy. Could they become friends? Or would Kumbali's instinct take over, causing an entirely different reaction? When the two met, you could feel the tension. They were curious, but cautious, each observing the other with a mixture of fear and wonder. Kumbali stared at Kago, perhaps unsure what to make of this strange, friendly creature bouncing around him. And then Kago made the first move. True to his puppy nature, he bounded over to Kumbali, sniffing him curiously, playfully pouncing and nipping at him. For a second, Kumbali froze, clearly startled. But then something magical happened. Kumbali let down his guard and responded to Kago's playful antics. They began chasing each other around. Kago darting around Kumbali's legs, and Kumbali responding with gentle swats. What started as a cautious interaction quickly blossomed into a full-blown friendship, and it didn't take long for everyone to see that Kumbali had finally found his companion. Watching them play, snuggle, and even eat together was nothing short of magical. From that day on, Kumbali and Kago became inseparable. They spent their days playing tag, chasing each other in the grassy enclosure, and inventing new games. Zoo visitors marveled at their bond, watching as the unlikely pair played together, oblivious to their differences. Kago would let out excited barks as he ran, while Kumbali, far from using his sharp instincts for hunting, playfully swatted at his friend. As they grew older, Kago's protective instincts kicked in. Whenever strangers approached, Kago would position himself between Kumbali and the visitors, his stance calm but protective. Kumbali, despite his predatory nature, showed patience and trust in Kago, even letting his friend eat first before he touched his own food. This friendship continued to surprise the zoo staff, as it quickly became clear that Kumbali and Kago were more than just playmates. At night, they would curl up together, with Kumbali's soft purrs mingling with Kago's gentle snores. They seemed to draw comfort from each other, sharing warmth and companionship that crossed the boundaries of species, and the bond between them has only grown over the years. Each year, the zoo staff celebrates their shared birthdays, bringing them special treats and watching as the two friends eagerly open their gifts. When new animals were brought to the zoo, Kago and Kumbali were the first to greet them, their bond making them surprisingly friendly and welcoming toward the other residents. One of their most memorable encounters was with a group of playful penguins who had recently moved in. When Kumbali and Kago visited their feathered neighbors, the penguins pecked curiously at the duo before accepting them as part of the family. Soon after, they could all be seen waddling and chasing each other, with Kumbali and Kago leading the way. Their friendship brought out the best in both of them. Kumbali learned trust and companionship from Kago, who never left his side even as he grew into a powerful young cheetah. And Kago, who came from a rough start, found in Kumbali a friend who was protective and gentle, showing that even the strongest animals have a place in their hearts for kindness. For everyone watching their journey unfold, there was an unmistakable lesson. Sometimes, the bonds we form with others, no matter how different, can change us for the better. The resilience of their friendship reminds us that no matter where we come from or what we've been through, love and companionship can open doors we never thought possible. What if we took a page out of the Kumbali and Kago's book? What if we allowed ourselves to be vulnerable, to reach out across boundaries we've set up, and to connect with those who might seem worlds apart from us? I think of Kumbali and Kago and wonder how many friendships are waiting to be discovered just beyond our comfort zones. As I reflect on the incredible journey of Kumbali and Kago, I'm reminded of the profound connections that can blossom in the most unlikely circumstances. Their friendship is a beautiful testament to the idea that love and companionship can transcend instinct and nature. So, as we close this story, I invite you to think about the friendships in your own life. Are there walls you've put up, either knowingly or unknowingly, that keep you from connecting with others? What would it mean for you to break down those barriers, as Kumbali and Kago did, and open your heart to someone different? And one last question to ponder. If a cheetah and a puppy can defy the odds and find love in each other's company, what could you discover by reaching out to someone new today? Thank you for joining me in this journey through the incredible bond of Kumbali and Kago. I hope their story inspires you as much as it did me, reminding us all that true friendship knows no limits. If you like this story, please like, share, and comment. Every view, share, like, and comment from you is a great support to the rescue team and any animal protection organization. Let's work together to create a better world for homeless animals. Thank you, and see you in future stories.